Hello everyone, this is JPO, and today I'm joined with...
Hey, I'm Total Legend.
Yes, and we are the podcast name in brackets, and today we will be continuing our conversation of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Now, to start off, let's talk about how we feel about the movie.
Ooh, that is a broad way to open this, but yeah, okay. I guess in general, personally, I liked it a lot. Like, here's what I'll say.
Okay.
I grew up with Star Wars. I grew up watching mostly the prequels because they were the newer ones and had flashier, graphics. And then I grew up and I watched the original trilogy. And I realized, okay, the story writing is a lot better in the original trilogy. And the prequels they had a lot of fun moments, but maybe not the most well-written things. So, going into the sequel trilogy, I was older, understood everything a little bit more. And so when I watched it, I got more critical of it.
Yeah.
I will say I really did enjoy, episode 7. Episode 8 had a lot of issues, in my opinion.
It's an interesting way how things have gone. My opinion has just taken a 180 since the last time we talked about it. So
fair. And then with Rise of Skywalker, it was, what I'll say in short was, overall, I think it was fun. Like, I enjoyed the movie, like, just as a viewing experience. Visually, it was pretty good too.
yeah, it's fun to look at.
Yeah, I will say overall, it felt like a very safe movie. Right? They didn't.
I mean, safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Safe.
And this is why I say safe, because with episode 7, J.J. Abrams didn't really have that much time to write it, so he just wrote a story similar to one that we already knew, that being it mirroring A New Hope, but it added some elements, but it was mostly just another Star Wars, which overall isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No.
Episode 8 rolls around and they wanted to really change a lot, and I have my own opinions of that, but overall it was not really a safe movie. There was a lot that they did to mess with the audience, to try and subvert expectations.
Yeah, that one took a lot of risk.
Yeah. This one, it felt like they went through and they were like, okay, the last Jedi, the last movie that we put out didn't do as hot. What can we do to appease our audience? So, they had... Sorry, by the way, I know this is a part 2. I'm going to go ahead and say right here, spoilers, just in case. But,
Yeah.
they have Palpatine come back as the villain. Okay, cool.
I don't get how that's a spoiler since we should.
Yeah, that's true. They have, a major Reylo scene at the end.
Oh yeah.
Which I have opinions. They have, I don't know. It just felt like a lot of, I don't want to say fan service, right? But like,
it's honestly, it felt like a fan fiction.
Yeah. I'll be real. This whole trilogy has kind of felt like a fan fiction.
But this one was really over the top with how they did things. It was just like, okay.
Well, especially connecting, Rey to Palpatine, which there were theories out the wazoo of who is she related to, and I'll admit Palpatine, in my opinion, is one of the better ones that they could have chosen.
I mean, yeah, I guess so, but it's just like, Palpatine was the one that I least wanted it to be, just because I don't like the idea of Palpatine having children. Because I feel like that something like that is just beneath Palpatine.
That's understandable. Yeah, I think that's fair.
With what we know about the nature of the Sith and the movies that we have, it's just I just didn't like that idea.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, so overall, I would just say it's a fun movie. It's definitely a Star Wars. Frankly, the action scenes are good. The character chemistry is
with our main cast. There's pretty good.
Yeah, I would say I liked it a lot. Yeah, obviously there are definitely issues with this movie, but I think overall it's a movie that, you know, if I'm scrolling through Disney Plus or hopefully I'll have free time again to see it in theaters, it's something that I would definitely be like, oh, yeah, I would watch that. That was a fun movie. I enjoyed that movie.
Yeah. I'd say that it's a really cool movie, but it's really bad. Just with how everything is put together.
All right, lay it on me.
Oh my god. The start, the opening crawl. The first lines are the dead speak. Palpatine is back, which if you had no idea that Palpatine was going to be in this movie coming into this, that's just going to confuse your audience right away. It's like, what the heck? I thought he died. And I can just imagine that moment can be just this fantastic scene in the beginning of a movie where you have your team doing whatever they're doing, and suddenly throughout the radio you hear Palpatine. It's like that be this big reveal. But no, it's revealed through text in the beginning of a movie. And it's like, oh, okay. I feel like we missed something here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair. It's like, remember in Attack of the Clones, in the elevator scene where they're going up the elevator and they're talking about, yeah, remember when we did this? This was so cool. Yeah, this was really fun. Cool. But you could have also shown us that instead of a film mostly about politics. But okay, either way.
Yeah. And I guess we should just go down the line with the characters in IMDb here.
Cool.
Are you guys set up?
Yeah.
All right, so let's go from the top with Leia.
Yes, she was in this movie.
I was surprised how much she was in this movie.
Yeah, actually, I was pleasantly surprised. I was kind of expecting the last film to be the one, like her last one. I'll be honest, the biggest news I was expecting in the title crawl was that Leia died. That's what I thought. Like, Leia died, the Resistance is now trying to find a new leader, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So seeing her was good. The one thing I will say, they don't really like explicitly tell you before this movie that Leia had a lot of like Jedi training.
No.
It's kind of implied, and we see her, you know, fly through space in the last one, but it doesn't really tell us about her training until later on in the movie.
And that's a good scene.
Yeah, for sure. But when she's, you know, training Rey, for instance.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it as, okay, I guess she probably is the best person to train her, but like only because she watched Luke for so long. So it's like a very, very secondhand training. And then we find out later, oh, okay, she had been trained, at least somewhat, in Jedi arts. But I don't know. That was something I think they should have made more clear a lot earlier. but
Yeah.
minor nitpick in my opinion.
Yeah.
On my part.
And the downside of Leia's character is that her character doesn't really have much impact because of the footage that they have. So she's just kind of there with her generic dialogue that they just try and fit around some stuff. And the only real effect that she has really to the plot is when she dies, and they have a silhouette of her dying, and then that whole sequence with Ben, which was apparent. It was kind of a confusing moment for some people, like exactly what was happening there. So, what was your take on that?
Yeah, I really don't know. Like, again, it has been a little while since I've seen it, so a lot of it is kind of not coming to mind as well as I wish.
Yeah.
But I do think, I don't know, the interaction, we don't really get to see, I don't know if we get to see them interact, like, on stage at all together.
Who?
Wow. Leia and
Ben. No, they don't.
Dang. That hits now.
Which is pretty sad.
Yeah. But, like, the times where she's, like, connecting with him despite that are cute.
Yeah, her connection is that she dies, he senses, and then he gets stabbed, which apparently, so apparently what happened there was that she gave her life force so that he wouldn't die from that stab.
Right.
Which, like, if you're just a casual viewer, you wouldn't actually just understand that. You'd just be like, oh, okay, she's dead.
Yeah. Okay, so I will say this much, right?
Yeah.
The Force is kind of weird in this movie. I mean,
yeah.
It's been weird, right? We in the first one, I was actually watching through it last night, and there's a moment in time, probably the most famous one, of Kylo Ren stopping a laser midair. Like, that's just one of the coolest things ever. Later on, he freezes people in place, especially Rey, and kind of like paces around her menacingly. Also cool. But then, like, his force powers after that are kind of not great. Like, he reads people's minds a little bit. He does a few pushes and pulls, especially on lightsabers. And that's kind of it. For Rey, like day one of using the Force, she's, using Jedi mind tricks and that kind of stuff. Admittedly, she's not, like, lifting rocks until, like, next week, but even still.
Yeah. How long did it take Luke?
Yeah, exactly. And in this one, or in the series, I will say one of the cool things was the connection that she had with Ben, where, like, they can see each other.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think that should have involved teleporting per se.
And also, here's a problem with that. I like the idea of them seeing each other. I think that it's a really cool concept. However, in The Last Jedi, it was established that for that connection to happen, that much force power would kill someone. And then they forget about that, apparently, and it just continues in this. And I get that they're trying to say, like, oh, they're a dyad, they're connected, and that's why they can do that. But it's like, no, you set up the rule, you stick to your rule.
Yeah. It's it's definitely weird. I don't know. I think it's a cool idea. I like that. Obviously, we had the Force projection with Luke in the last episode.
Yeah.
I like them exploring the Force because I think, and I'm going to pull from Jedi Fallen Order here, it's cool to see that certain Jedi have certain, like, talents in the Force, right?
Yeah.
We don't really see that much in the initial trilogy or even the prequels. we do see, like, Obi-Wan uses Jedi mind tricks more than most others. But besides that, nobody really specializes, except, well, Palpatine uses Force Lightning a lot. But in Jedi Fallen Order, he specializes, or he has a lot of talent in seeing Force echoes, which is cool. In this one, my first perspective of after I finished watching this most recent movie was, oh, okay, so their Force specialty, I guess, is their connection. Cool. But then there's also, like, as stated before, Rey immediately can figure out Jedi mind tricks well enough and lift a lot of rocks and know how to fly a spaceship, which I get it, Jedi thing. I'm cool with that. And
she can force heal.
Force healing, I think, is the big one. Like, I know it's set up in Legends. I think that you can use the Force to heal, right?
Yeah.
Makes sense. But also, like, that's a lot to establish in one movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm okay with people using the Force to heal, but, like, mind you, she's been a Jedi for maybe a year, I guess. I don't even know. It just kind of undervalues all the other Jedi that we've ever seen.
Yeah. It kind of does.
I will say when I watched Last Jedi, the only way I could explain this logically in my head was that the Force basically had bandwidth, which I hate thinking about. But basically, since in the initial or the prequel trilogy, there's a bunch of Jedi and a few Sith and all that. The Force is being split between all of them, so their Force powers aren't as strong. Whereas, Vader restores balance to the Force. Hey, now the bandwidth is open to the remaining Force users, so they can do cool things. But, like, I don't want to ever think of having the Force having a bandwidth. I don't think that's how the Force should ever work.
And I don't think that's what they were going for at all.
I don't think so either.
They had these cool ideas for how we can use the Force, and they don't think about the implications of rules previously established that it takes massive amounts of training to get to that. Instead, now you just, I guess, breathe and meditate, and oh hey, now you can float in the air while you meditate, which it's such a small thing that's only brought up once, but still, it's like, huh?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So Luke in this one, really small appearance.
What's his appearance in this besides?
He's Force Ghost.
Force Ghost.
He catches the lightsaber and said, "A Jedi's lightsaber deserves more respect than this." Essentially, that whole sequence there is just saying "F you" to Ryan in the last movie.
That's fair. Yeah.
And he says, "I was wrong," and a bunch of other things. I mean, sure, I guess it sets Rey straight on her path that she needs to go, but not too much impact. Much else.
Yeah. I will say Force Ghosts in this trilogy can do quite a lot more than they could ever before, which I don't know how to feel about.
I guess, it was never stated that they couldn't.
Yeah.
Or something, but
at the same time, like, the way I think about it is, like, the Jedi, the Force, the reason why the Force Ghosts are so powerful as is that they can give wisdom to new Jedi that would be maybe harder to pass down, and that already is significant. But like, actually being able to interact with physical objects or summon lightning.
And also to state that whenever Force Ghost manifests, it hurts them emotionally to do so, from not being completely one with the Force when they appear like that. So that's something that I wish they would have explored more here.
Fair.
Besides that, Mark Hamill actually voiced another character at the beginning of the movie. The character that gives him the intel that there's a spy.
Oh, really?
Which you know me, I love Mark Hamill, so I can just catch his voice like immediately, and I hear him. It's like, oh hey, that's Mark. I just, so that was fun.
Fair.
All right, so now on to Kylo Ren.
Heck yeah, best character of the series.
Oh yeah, he's definitely the most interesting character.
Yeah. Admittedly, watching through it and cheering for Kylo the whole time is a bit depressing because he doesn't really ever get what he wants until he dies.
Yeah.
But
I wish that he
character.
did. I wish that he didn't have to die, just because he died for that typical sacrifice role.
Yeah. So my perspective on this is this is where they took like the easy way out.
The easy redemption arc.
Yeah, like even with Vader, right? He dies sacrificing himself. Cool. It's classic. I get it. But even still, they didn't really like. They did that. It ties up the movie nicely, but if Kylo Ren didn't die in this movie, I realize fully that it would be completely awkward to bring him back to like the Resistance or something. But that opens up so many really cool possibilities. And I understand the movie's long enough as is. They're not going to have a sequel. But man, it would have been cool.
It would have been cool. See him return to light. Mm-hmm. And, him being the rise of Skywalker, because he's the last blood line of the Skywalker, so.
Yeah.
That would have been nice. And, whenever he's he's so much fun.
Yeah.
Just for that small segment.
Well, and I think Adam Driver does a really good job in the films. Like, even, I'm going to say the first film is just phenomenal for establishing the character of, like, hey, this guy is scary and unhinged and unpredictable. And even in the second one, like, he's got a goal. And then in the third one, he kind of goes back to being more unstable, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of wish. I guess I kind of wish the films were not about Rey, but more about Kylo, just because, like, he could have had one of two really, really cool arcs, whether, like, he uses his rage, his frustration, and kind of goes blind to everything else, and by the third film, he's set up as this, like, crazy, like, awesome villain who's just, he's rejected. Maybe even Vader at that point is like, I'm going to be better. I'm going to surpass everyone. I'm going to tear everyone apart, especially Rey. Or they could have gone the other route of, you know what, I don't want to be the bad guy anymore. I'm going to fix my ways regardless, no matter what that takes. And they kind of do that here, but again, like, if he lived, that would be the distinguishing point that I would have loved.
I do kind of wish that he was the main villain instead of Palpatine.
Yeah.
Just because that's kind of what they were setting him up for in the last movie, where he doesn't really care about the light or dark side. He's just like, I'll follow my own path and my own rule. And here, like, he kind of starts with that, with trying to kill Palpatine, and Palpatine's like, yo, I made Snoke, son, fool. So you follow me, and Ben's fine with that, I guess. So he does.
Yeah. I okay. This is one thing I will say. Palpatine in this movie is not the worst thing to happen to Star Wars. I'll say that because they do a lot of like. It does a lot of poetic justice, right? The Skywalker saga has its foil of it also being the Palpatine saga. That's cool, I guess. Having Rey be Palpatine's granddaughter is cool for the whole duality they set up between Kylo and Rey. It somewhat explains their Force powers, but also, like, I don't know how I feel about eugenics in the Force. Regardless, like it's definitely not the worst thing. It's not the worst twist. It does, as much as I didn't like The Last Jedi, right? There's a lot of things I didn't like. I will say one thing that I think Rian Johnson was attempting was to explain that Rey wasn't connected to anybody, which I was okay with. I will say the presentation of that was terrible, but I'm okay with not knowing who the protagonist is. Like, we know nothing about Finn except that he was taken as a kid and became a stormtrooper, right?
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. We know very, very little about Poe. I'm okay with that. We don't really need to know that much about Rey. If she, acted based off of some of these traits, that might be different, but she's just kind of like a bright-eyed, like, former scavenger, and that's kind of all we get from it. Even when they explain, oh, this is why, it doesn't really, like, matter too much.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, and so the turning of Kylo Ren to Ben with Han coming back was a really nice scene.
Yeah. And
I was surprised that Harrison came back for that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I saw that and I was like, I wonder how much they had to coax Harrison Ford to actually do this scene. But I'm sure he got a pretty hefty paycheck for it, so.
Yeah, while watching that scene, I'm like, oh, please tell me he's not a Force ghost.
Yeah, I was with you there. Like, as much as I would love to have, Leia and Ben have this whole family reunion with his dad, I feel like he specifically avoided learning too much about the Force anyways. It doesn't make sense to have him be an actual Force ghost.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they explained that you're just a memory, so at least they have that excuse. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
And it's a nice repeat of The Force Awakens, and that was really nice.
Yeah. Him getting straight up stabbed by Rey was infuriating for the sense of, oh, I'm gonna stab you, now I'm gonna heal you. It's kind of weird, but it was cool because it's like, hey, you know how the last movie the motto was, hey, let the past die, kill it if you have to, type of thing.
Yeah.
Well, now he kind of dies and is reborn back as Ben, which I think is poetic, I guess. I don't know.
I guess so, yeah.
Him falling down in supposed abyss and then rising back up was a bit cheesy. But
yep. You had to get rid of him so that Rey can do her little lightsaber thing.
Well, and like, this is the thing, right?
Yeah.
He gets booted into an abyss. I understand the parallelism of Palpatine getting booted into the abyss. Okay, cool. And then he rises out of the abyss, and you're like, that's the name of the movie. I get it. But I don't know anybody who who when he was booted down there was like, oh, he's definitely dead now. Bummer. Like, no, they wouldn't have built him up that big just to let him get kicked down a crevice into nothingness. Like, they would definitely... I don't know. It was... I'm not going to say unnecessary, but it was... They did that too much in this movie with the fake out deaths for it to really...
Yeah. Also, it's an easy way to get rid of a character for a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Anyways, continuing down the list, I suppose.
Yeah.
We have Rey.
Rey.
The
Yay.
main character. I don't know. I've always felt that, like, Rey has just kind of been there. I don't really know that much about Rey. By the end of this series, I don't know what she likes or doesn't like, or she's just kind of been there. And I know the term Mary Sue gets thrown around a lot with her. And for the most part, I agree with it. I'll argue that her character isn't terrible, and it's not a complete Mary Sue. But, hear me out. If I had just learned about the Force and found out that it was real, and then could use it to trick somebody else's mind into doing something that they specifically don't want to do, I think that's a bit much. And that's kind of been the thing with her the whole time is, I get it, make women characters powerful in Star Wars, I'm totally on board for it. Just, they need to earn it.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. And I don't think there's anybody in this series that actually dislikes Rey, like, as far as characters go. But I feel like there definitely should be. Even, like, at the end, you know, there's a kiss between Kylo and Rey, even though he's hated her this whole time. Palpatine is the bad guy, but still her grandfather. So, that's a thing. I don't know who doesn't like her. Except... No, like, I'm trying to rack my brain for even the most, like... I'm trying to see if R2 has any, like, grievances against
Poe.
her. I guess Poe.
Poe is the closest one to not liking her, because she sometimes damages BB-8.
Yeah.
And she doesn't really like Poe because he hurts the Falcon.
Cool.
There you go.
I'm all for it. Crank it up to 11 and then we'll be fine.
That works.
Okay. Do you have anything to say about Rey?
I mean, she has a yellow lightsaber now.
That, yes, is true. Will we ever get to see it again? Who knows?
Video
Probably
game?
not.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Video game, or if they wanted to incorporate it into, like, an animated series or something.
Yeah. I was really shocked to see that. It's like...
I like their choice of it. You know, we've only ever seen, 3 colors on the actual big screen, so...
In live action, yeah. So it's like,
sorry,
yellow
4.
live action. Woo!
Yeah, so, appreciate it.
Also, it's like, as soon as The Force Awakens came out, we talked to each other about this. And I remember telling you that I think Rey should have a yellow lightsaber. I think it best suits her character. And now she does, and I'm just... so shocked, is like, what? They did that? Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. They got that right.
I will say the one scene, you know, where she's like fighting her dark self was also unnecessary. Like, I get it, JJ. I get it. There's the nostalgia. You'd use the nostalgia factor a ton in the first of your series, right? We didn't need an entire episode 5 again with this one, or, you know, episode 6 combined into this one. So, like, where she fights herself, okay, I get it. But also, did she need to have, like, a Swiss Army lightsaber? I don't know. It's one thing if, like, by the end of it, you know, her lightsaber that is yellow, right? If that was double bladed, I would be like, oh, that's awesome.
It's maybe left in the open, but whether or not it is.
Yeah, but like if they definitively showed that, I would have been like, oh, that's so cool, because it shows that, you know, she overcame her like evil self, and she's still using her strengths though. That's cool. But no, it was just like, hey, we're gonna put this in the movie because it'll be a great shot in the trailers.
Yeah. Can you talk about some real quick? I deal with my cat.
Sure thing. I guess we will go on to Finn, and I will talk about Finn. Finn is a great character that is super underutilized in this movie, and also this movie and the previous one. He's set up in The Force Awakens to be one of the main characters. The last movie was also a main character, but had the worst subplot of anything I think I've ever seen in Star Wars. And now, in Episode 9, he just is there. He didn't get as bad of a treatment as Rose, but he's kind of just the co-pilot to Poe in this movie. Except for the part where he does have the interaction with the other people that were previous stormtroopers too. That was cool.
Yeah. I don't know what you just said, but yeah.
Basically, how he was underutilized, and he could have had a better character arc throughout the entire series, but that's okay.
Finn. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or have we moved on to Finn?
Yes, that is
okay.
what I did.
What did he have to say to Rey?
Yeah, no, I was super mad about that. Like, you know, obviously we could guess that it's the cliche, I've always had feelings for you thing.
Which might have been the case.
Yeah, but like,
yeah,
the fact that they put it in the script.
They took too much time to do that. Yeah,
they focused on it, and then we're like, ha, we forgot about it. Sorry, that's never going to be in the film. Cool.
Yeah. Frank. Also, Finn's force sensitive.
Yeah, that's another thing that they don't really address, but is a thing. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's almost like, personally, right? There are things that Rian Johnson did that were good, I think. But hear me out. If this episode, because the last movie didn't really do too much for the overall story. If this one was the second one, right? It would have been pretty cool. Because they could have, like, as far as like a character arc basis, there were a lot of cool things that they could have explored.
Yeah.
And they can't now, which is a bummer, because it felt like with 7, it was kind of like a thing of, hey, this is better than the prequels, so we'll take it, right? With 8, it was like, okay, this is not regular Star Wars. And for me, that was kind of a big decline, because there were a lot of things that could have been better that weren't done well. And then it was kind of an incline for me for this one, because they fixed a lot of the issues, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's kind of a whole roller coaster of, I feel good when I'm watching the first and the third in this trilogy, and the second one I'm kind of like, the second one's kind of depressing, if I'm going to be honest, up until like the last scene. I don't like
which one?
Like, okay, when Luke appears as a Force ghost, that's hype, right?
Oh yeah,
it's a cool shot. It's a cool message of, you know, he's a Jedi, but he despite the fact that he owns a lightsaber, he's using the Force to deal with the issue, to save people's lives, rather than just pulling out flying there, pulling out a lightsaber and trying to stab his way to victory.
Yeah,
that's an awesome message. That's a great way to kill off a good character like that. besides that, and besides some of the really cool visuals, I don't have very many positive things to say about that movie. And I guess Kylo Ren's also just great all the time. But
Yeah.
So, in summary, Finn has had a rough time, and I wish they used him more as a main character in the episodes after 7, rather than a supporting character to everybody else.
Yeah.
But I digress.
Also, Finn didn't really have much of a role in the final battle, which, besides, taking out the whole antenna thing, which honestly could have just been done by shooting it from a spaceship than just having a ground assault.
I mean, yeah, I agree.
But, let's forgive that for a moment so that we can have Sith troopers and horses.
Yeah.
Alright. I guess we can move on to Poe.
Poe's great. Another character that's underutilized, but like they did better this time, I guess.
Yeah, he was fun.
I love Oscar Isaac. I actually just watched another one of his movies, Ex Machina, last night, which is still breaking my brain. But he's a good actor, and I'm glad. I know in the initial script, JJ was planning on killing off Poe in the initial crash, and I'm glad he didn't, because I like Poe as a character now, and they did a good job with him. But I could also understand if they had killed off Poe. He's kind of one of the characters that I like him, but I guess it's hard for me to pinpoint what he actually does for the story up until this movie. He's helpful to Finn in the first one, right? And he's, their best pilot then, right? In the second one, he just kind of...
I guess they're trying to set him up to be the new general leader.
Right. Which
he becomes in this one.
Yeah.
And essentially fails to the point of being rescued by everyone.
True. Although, to be fair, going into that, everybody kind of knew if nobody helps us, we'll probably lose, but I guess we'll try anyways.
Yeah.
So, I can appreciate it. But, yeah.
Lightspeed skipping.
Lightspeed skipping is yep. Mm-hmm.
It was cool, but makes no sense.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing, is they... In the Star Wars movies recently, they have been introducing a lot of tech stuff, I guess, that's oh wow, this is revolutionary, nobody's ever thought of this in the Star Wars universe, but the reason why they don't talk about it is because it breaks things. So especially, light speeding into another ship causes big boom. Yeah, that causes issues, because why aren't there just kamikaze droids in ships now? That seems very obvious. If you want to destroy something, just go to light speed and it go boom.
And they brought it up in this one, and their explanation was just no good.
Yeah. So I get it, light speed skipping. I wish it kind of had a better consequence to it, because you shouldn't just be able to skip all over the, galaxy just willy-nilly like that. But
yeah, and also being followed immediately by TIE fighters, and they're exiting at the same point.
I will say, TIE fighters is another thing that I don't think the directors really understood. My view on a TIE fighter is that it shouldn't be able to travel that far. It's for defending a main ship. It shouldn't be...
Well, that was the old Imperial one. This is the new one.
Yeah, but even still, 30 years, right? 30 years of advancement probably shouldn't, like, I'm okay with Kylo's because it's like, okay, that was probably custom made for that, but like other ones, like, you think most of this technology has been around since like the old Republic. Why is it getting a huge update in just 30 years?
How did Kylo get from the Death Star to...
He got...
He took a TIE fighter, an old one, from the Death Star, but that one does not have light speed.
He was just flying for a long time. He had to clear his mind. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things that when you start looking at it, kind of falls apart at the seams. But it's okay.
Let's look past it.
Yeah. All right.
3PO.
C-3PO.
I don't know. He was funny at times, but
I mean, I will say, like, they did make him a more crucial character than I think he's ever been, which was cool.
Yeah. And, the whole death fake out.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, the death fake out is kind of a thing that happened too much in this movie. Between Chewbacca, 3PO, Kylo, Rey. Am I missing anyone? Alright, anyways, 4 is already enough. Yeah. So I don't really I thought it was a cool idea as far as like using C-3PO in that way. I think that was cool.
Yeah.
I'll say his loss of memory is comical in a lot of ways. And we knew from the beginning he would get his memory back, or at least I felt like he would. From 3PO. It would have been kind of funny if 3PO's memory bank actually had been like messed up and 3PO only remembered back to like, I don't know, the end of The Last Jedi, or even before then, or that would have been kind of funny.
He wakes up and is like, Master Annie, where are you?
Yeah, like that would have been like really funny.
And like it'd be funny and like also sad at the same time. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
And I do kind of wish, C-3PO might have died in this one. Or at least one of the droids, because they've been going on for so long. Well, they've been in all 9 movies.
Yeah, and we have so many droids now between R2, C-3PO, BB-8, and is it T-O? C-O?
Dio.
Dio? It's whatever JJ played.
The one that it's there.
Yeah, Dio.
Dio. But yeah. He wasn't terrible, but he was mainly used as comedy and a way to move the plot forward, I guess. He was a plot point. Yeah. And my whole thing about the comedy in this whole new set of movies is just I don't like the way it's been utilized. It doesn't really feel natural. It just feels like it's written for the laughs instead of just having... But let's move on.
Yeah.
Jana, she was there, I guess.
We'll have to do a bit of a lightning round because I'm going to have to get going pretty soon. But
yeah.
Jana, the ex-clone trooper, or not clone trooper.
It's just Stormtrooper.
Stormtrooper. Cool addition, not super well explored. Is all. Okay. If anything, what would have been just hilarious, or like super cool, if nothing else, if Kylo ends up becoming this like super like epic villain, maybe like in the first 10 minutes he kills Palpatine. Just imagine that. And then General Hux turns out to be this spy, and at first he's like, yeah, I'm just going to take down Kylo Ren, I'm going to join the Resistance, and then by the end of it, he tries to turn Kylo to the light. That would have been amazing. But no, they just kill him.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But
Bit of a rant there.
Yeah, instead he is once again a joke in this one.
Yeah.
Which JJ did a thing where he made General Pride transitioning to him the Hux that he was supposed to be, and he kills off the joke Hux, which I'd say Pride was a good villain for the short time that he was there. He was more menacing.
Yeah. But I liked so this is the thing. I liked Hux because he was this conniving weasel, right? Like at the end of the day, you could beat anybody. Like BB-8 could beat him in a fist fight, right? But General Hux was never afraid to use his resources to mess anybody up. And I think that was they could have used that a little bit better in the end, instead of him just being like, I'm the spy, and then he dies. I think that could have gone better, even if he just was jailed instead of shot. But oh well.
Yeah. I guess let's just close off the characters there and move on to moments. I guess we need to talk about Palpatine.
Yeah. Quick thing on Palpatine, and then we'll probably have to wrap up with final opinions.
Yeah.
Sheev is back. Shoutouts to Palps. The fact that Ian McDiarmid,
yeah.
Yeah. He's been in all of. He was in the initial trilogy, and then he was in the prequels. So this man's seen it all. I think he might have been in more. I think he's in more Star Wars movies than anybody else.
No.
Who?
3PO.
Well, okay, yeah, that's true.
Because he's in literally all of them.
That's fair.
And also he's in the TV shows as well, so.
Fair. But besides 3PO, shoutouts to Ian McDiarmid.
Oh yeah. Palpatine. The only thing I don't like is just that he's alive. And it just undermines the whole Anakin chosen one bring balance there.
Yeah.
Which it's just whatever. I would have preferred it if he was just a Force haunting a Sith ghost, I guess.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that too. Although the thing is a big thing about the original lore was the Sith were trying for forever to figure out how to live past being killed, and most of them found other methods, but basically nobody figured out how to become a Sith Force ghost.
No, they can only be contained in one area.
Yeah.
That they haunt.
Yeah. And
essentially their deathbed.
Yeah, and they kind of go against that in this movie, I guess. So me and my brother-in-law had a bit of a dispute on that there are other Sith beings at the end of the fight, and we're not. He took the route that they were just cultists that kind of Palpatine had manipulated into helping him build everything up, or potentially clones of Palpatine. Or I took it as they were Sith Force ghosts, and that
no.
Well, this is the thing. They don't really have any interaction besides chanting. So the way I saw that was, they're just there to basically Sith hype up Palpatine.
Yeah, they were. Well, they were the ones that using their mysticism, created all those Star Destroyers with Death Star lasers.
Yeah.
Big bullcrap. But you know that was that was fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just ignore that, like everything, all the problems in this movie, and just move on to the closing thoughts and moments.
Yeah.
For me, I cried 3 times in this movie.
Oh yeah.
And I saw the movie twice, and I cried even more the second time, which is a really rare thing in movies. And the moments that happened was, the first one was when Chewbacca found out that Leia died.
Oh yeah, that was big sad.
Oh yeah, that was a big sad. All his friends are dead. Second was when Luke lifted his X-wing, and that was just because of the music.
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
the last part is when all those ships came in and they were playing the main Star Wars theme, and it was just because of the music. And that one I was like bawling. It was like, ah.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Overall, like, this is the thing. I think it was a better Star Wars experience than the last one. It was very Star Warsy, and I appreciate all like the Jedi Force Ghost voices at the end there. That was cute, and
they have Ahsoka, and they have Kanan, which I guess the sad part is Ahsoka's now dead.
Hey, spoilers. But yeah, no, they had all those. That was cute. There were a lot of like good Star Warsy moments that I'll look back and be like if I'm just in a very nostalgic like Star Warsy mood, I will probably watch this movie just because like it has a lot of those elements in it. I don't think from like a film perspective this is like the best movie ever made by any means, but it's fun. It's like, I feel like this is the Star Wars equivalent to a Marvel movie. Like it's fun, it's action packed. If you don't question it too much, it's fine. But when you do start questioning it, it's like, that's kind of an issue. But I don't know. I guess if we are giving ratings to it, I don't know. I think probably like a solid 7 in my opinion out of 10. Like it's good enough that I'm willing to watch it multiple times over. Of course, that opinion might change if I ever do watch it multiple times over. But it's also like, it definitely has its issues that I wish were fixed, but I also would say that a lot of the issues for this movie stem from last movie too. So
yeah.
What about you?
I'm gonna refrain by giving a number.
Ooh, bold.
Yeah, just because I don't have one to give for this one.
That's fair.
And I guess I already said that it's a cool movie. I can enjoy watching it, but I don't think that it's a really good movie. I think it's just okay. My feeling while walking out of the theater was, it was just okay. I was just it was okay.
Yeah.
And I've walked out of The Last Jedi being really confused. Don't really know what I'm feeling, and I walked out of Solo being empty. This one was just like, okay. And that's that. And so, I guess how would you just talk about the whole trilogy? Just how do you think it works and not works? Just final thought.
I think it's one of those that like, if somebody's trying to get into Star Wars, Episode 7's a good starting point because you're getting introduced to a bunch of like, a lot of Star Wars things at once. However, if you're really trying to get someone into Star Wars, start with the original Star Wars. Because, frankly, Episode 4 and Episode 5 are better made. They have a lot better pacing. The only downside is that their graphics are not as good, despite the fact that they're still amazing for the time. It's one of those that, like, the series is fun to watch. It's not as confusing or poorly, like, dialogued as the prequel trilogy, but overall it doesn't seem as necessary to the plot. Like, it's there. It doesn't mess up the original trilogy, and it doesn't really mess up the prequels. I don't know if you can mess up the prequels more than where they are, but I think the best way of putting it is it's very high budget fan fiction, and maybe that's okay. Yeah, that is how I will summarize it.
Okay. Yeah. So going back, when we did our Force Awakens, or attempt at doing a podcast there, I said that I couldn't really talk about how I have a ranking or overall opinion of that movie because I have not seen the final goal.
Yeah.
And I just say it's not where it should have been. And honestly, this series really needed one direction with one guiding figure on top, instead of just different people with differing ideas about where the story should go. And that's how I'll leave it there.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Anything else for you to say?
Nothing that comes to mind, but yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yep.
And yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.